Hey guys, Mike with Long Range with the Lilies. I was having a really great conversation with a buddy of mine who was really interested in getting into long range shooting. He's seen what Keely and I do through our YouTube and social media, and he was looking to reach out and see what he needed to do to get into learning how to shoot long range. Well, like most of these conversations, it gravitated towards instruction and shooting courses and how to set a good foundation so he can be successful. Like everybody else, he's got a limited amount of resources, limited amounts of money, and more importantly, time. And he was asking for recommendations on where I thought he could best spend his money and time. So I thought it would make a really great video subject. So I thought I'd share my philosophies with you guys today. So that being said, my shooting philosophies and my opinion and what they're worth. Well, my opinion is worth exactly what you paid for to watch this video. Take it or leave it. These are my opinions, kind of my philosophies, and the things that I look for. I'm not saying they're absolutes and the right or wrong way, which leads me into my shooting philosophy is I don't think there is a right and wrong way. If there was one perfect way to shoot a rifle long range, we would all be doing it. But when you look across all the different fields and varieties and people out there, there's lots and lots and lots of successful people, and they all do things just a little bit differently from each other. I think that the only absolute when it comes to long range shooting is safety. Outside of that, there's lots of different methodologies and techniques in order to accomplish the goal of shooting long range successfully. So with that being said, I think that in order to talk about this subject, you really have to break it down into two parts. There's the student and then there's the instructor in class. So I think that a lot of people out there have a lot of opinions on, what great courses are and who's the best instructor. But I don't think whatever gets talked about is how to be a good student and how to achieve the most success out of your long range courses. So in order to achieve success, I think you have to be a good student. So I want to cover some of the things that I've noticed attending a variety of instruction from a variety of instructors. So being a good student, the first thing I would say as you're looking into doing all this is do your homework. Research, who the good instructors are, how you get in touch with them, and then once you figure out what course you're going to take, do the homework on that course. Does it have a gear list? Where are the best places to stay? Do I need to bring my own food? What's the weather like? What kind of equipment do I need? What does my rifle system need to look at? A lot of instructors have a general breakdown of what they look for in a student's rifle system, and by doing a little bit of homework, you can save yourself a lot of pain in the class. Once that class starts, the instructor's got a very limited amount of time in order to impart his knowledge into you. So if you're already showing up behind the power curve because you didn't bring the right gear or you didn't bring enough water or you don't have food and those kinds of things, it's just a distractor that's taken away from you and the rest of the course. I think next, after you've picked the course and you've decided and you've done your homework and you're showing up at the course, the first thing instructors always talk about with their students is show up with an open mind. Well, what does that mean? I think that there's different opinions and different variants of what an open mind means. My personal feeling on this is me showing up with an open mind means that I am showing up prepared to receive the knowledge from the instructor and prepared to give all of that knowledge and techniques that he's trying to give me an honest to goodness try. Even if it feels weird, even if it's contrary to something else I've learned, I'm there at that course, so I need to give that instructor 100% of my effort to pick up what he's putting down. And it may not make sense at first, and it may even click later, or sometimes it's not until even after the course that those things click. But if I don't give that honest effort, I've already put in a barrier to learning, and I'm already handicapping myself right from the get-go. You paid good money, and you're sacrificing a good amount of time to attend this course for the opportunity to learn from that instructor. And if you're already showing up not willing to receive everything that he's putting out, you've already wasted your time and your money. Or worse, if you're that guy that's resisting the instructor openly, you're hurting the rest of the class and you're taking away from their time and their value that they spent their money on. So that leads a great segue into my next point of don't be that guy. Don't show up with a huge ego. Nobody cares how great of a shooter you are. Some of the best shooters in the world still show up and take very, very basic courses from instructors. So, everybody that's there, from that guy who's the world-class shooter to the guy with his first long-range rifle, they're there for the same reason, and that's to learn from that instructor. Nobody cares if you're the best shot in the world. You're all there to learn. So don't be the guy who's so busy puffing your chest out and worrying about, whether I missed a shot or this or how I'm doing with the other compared to the rest of the students. Nobody cares. Everybody's there to learn from the instructor. Don't do anything to take away from that. It hurts your learning, and worse, it hurts everybody else's learning. The last point I want to make, actually there's two more, show up on time and ready to learn. And again, I keep going back to this, don't be the guy that takes away from everybody else. But if the instructor is ready to impart knowledge, again, he's got that limited amount of time, and you're back at your car, you're BSing, you forgot something, you got to go back and get it. All that is distracting from the instructor and from the student. And it's super frustrating for both of those populations. So don't be that guy. The last thing I want to cover is have reliable gear. If you show up at a course and you're fighting your gear, be it your clothing, your equipment, your rifle system, all those things, and it's going to detract from your ability to learn because you're going to be distracted fighting your equipment. And worse, your instructor is going to have to take time to fix your equipment or to make things good for you so you can focus on the learning. Now, that being said, most of your good instructors out there have little catches in place to be able to deal with this because it's not super uncommon, but you can definitely increase your learning curve and increase the effectiveness of the course by showing up with reliable equipment. Reach out to your instructor ahead of time, have a good candid conversation with him about what you're bringing and whether that's going to meet his requirements. So now that we've covered what it takes to be a good student, I think the next thing I want to cover is what I look for when I'm searching for an instructor. So I am a competition shooter. Yes, I hunt, but it's not where I focus the majority of my effort. The majority of my effort is focused on competition-specific shooting, so I tend to gravitate towards that. So that being said, I think you need to find an instructor who is passionate about the subject that you're trying to learn. Now, if you're trying to learn fundamentals, there are lots of great instructors with fantastic reputations that are very, very passionate about teaching the fundamentals. And I think that is a great place to start, whether your field, whatever field of long-range shooting you want to get into, going to the fundamentals is always going to be the right answer to start with. That being said, after you've achieved or mastered those fundamentals, then you can start branching out into more competition-specific stuff. So like for me personally now, I'm not saying my fundamentals are perfect. I will revisit them all the time. In fact, I'm going to go see Jacob Bynum at Rifles Only in February just to brush up on fundamentals as I start the 2021 season off. But that being said, most of my knowledge hunger now is competition focused. And I tend to gravitate towards competition shooters because your instructor is always going to approach his instruction from his base. You are always a summation of all your experiences and the things that you've learned. And as you teach those to other people, the little nuances that you teach are going to come from that frame of mind. So like I said, a competition shooter may teach something slightly different than a hunter or a military law enforcement guy, just due to the little nuances of competition versus the rest of the world. Now, that being said, if you want to be a military law enforcement sniper professional, you should absolutely look for somebody who's A, passionate about those things, but B, has the credentials and the real world experience to teach you those specific tasks. I wouldn't go to just a straight competition shooter to learn about law enforcement or military sniping. Yes, there's carryovers. Yes, the fundamentals apply to all of them. But there are, again, little nuances that your instructor can give, little tidbits, little lessons learned that they have through their experience that can impart a lot of knowledge to you. The next thing I'll say while we're talking about that, so I view long-range shooting as having three kind of primary fields. There's the competition scene, there's the hunting scene, and then there's the military law enforcement professionals. what I look for in the instructor is, do they have credibility? What is their reputation? And are they relevant in that field? I think it's very, very critically important that you are getting instruction from somebody who has a broad, well-established background in that field. There are a lot, and the military law enforcement side is the absolute worst. There are a lot of dudes out there who say that they have a lot of, history and background, and a lot of, I think stolen valor is probably an appropriate word to say. A lot of guys that are passing themselves off as something that they are not. So do your homework, do your research, vet your instructor, talk to other people within that community as to who they recommend to get instruction, and then go that method. So the next thing I want to talk about is your instructor adapting and changing? So if they've been in this game a long time, long range shooting is advancing at an incredible rate. I was listening to a podcast from the guys from the American Marksmanship Unit, the Army Marksmanship Unit, and they are talking about that we're in the golden age of small arms projectiles. The sport is advancing so fast, whether it's advancements in long-range hunting and the ability to take game further than we ever have before, our ability to make impacts in a military law enforcement, scenario or a competition. Like, the sport is advancing more in the past 20 years than in the previous probably 100 years before that. So as the sport advances, instructors need to advance their techniques, their philosophies, and especially the technological aspects. Are they staying current with everything, or are they still teaching the way they learned it back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever? Are they staying relevant? Are they adapting to modern times? I think it's very, very critical that your instructors are doing that, and they're not stuck teaching the same period of instruction that they learned, way back when they first picked up a rifle. The next thing I look for in an instructor is, are they a good teacher? Do they know how to communicate? Do they know about barriers to communication? Do they know fundamentals of instruction? Do they know defense mechanisms? Do they know about the sender, the receiver, and the message? Do they know all of those things and what it takes to communicate with somebody? Are they adaptable? Every individual person learns differently. Are they adapting their teaching to get the knowledge to you, or do they expect you to adapt to them as an instructor? There's nothing worse than an instructor that stands up on an altar and demands that you worship at their feet, and they're saying, like, well, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, then you don't belong here. Are they adaptable with their period of instruction? So you show up at these courses, weather may not cooperate. Can they shift around their instruction, or are they so rigid that they can only teach things one way, and if one little thing goes wrong, that they can't adjust the rest of the class, and the whole class suffers for it? Are they adaptable to individual needs? Everybody's body is a little different. Everybody learns differently. Can they adapt to that individual? There's body differences, gender differences, people with special needs. For example, I was in Nebraska at a match, and there's a guy with no legs out there shooting and competing. I guarantee that guy has some individual specific needs that he needs to address to learn how to effectively shoot long range that I don't have. Or vice versa, he may just pick it up a lot quicker than I do, and it doesn't matter to him. But my point is, your instructor has to be flexible. If they're very rigid, they're not going to be an effective communicator, and therefore they're not going to be an effective instructor. What's their reputation in the community? And by reputation in the community, I don't mean how cool they look on Instagram, what their social media following is, how good their podcast is doing, whatever. What is their reputation in the community of people that they're teaching to? If they're competitors, what's their reputation as competitors? Are they successful? If I'm trying to learn a competition-specific course, I definitely don't want to learn from the guy who's always a mid-pack shooter. I want to learn from the dudes at the top. If I'm a military law enforcement sniper, what's that guy's reputation in the community? Is it that guy's never been there, never done anything? Is it he's a fantastic instructor? Is it this dude's a complete charlatan, faker, or whatever? So definitely do your research, vet your instructor, find out what that reputation is like from those people. That kind of goes into how do they react or interact with people, both online and in person. Are they an internet troll that's always picking a fight and is always looking to justify their opinions? Or are they genuinely out there trying to seek knowledge and impart knowledge and wisdom on people? Or are they out there just trying to justify their ego? The next thing that I want to bring up is, are they infallible? So this is a real important one with me. Is your instructor so stuck on themselves that they think that their way of doing things is the only way to do it? Or do they encourage you to seek, explore other instructors, other periods of instruction, other courses to make you well-rounded? Do they badmouth other instructors? Do they say so-and-so has no business teaching? So-and-so is all messed up. I'm the only way to do it. You know, I'm the only one that's enlightened enough to get what's going on to teach you properly. If you have an instructor that's telling you those things, they're probably a crappy instructor. Like all things, business, whatever, if your product is good, it sells itself and you don't need to tell people how great you are. So with that being said, that kind of covers everything that I wanted to cover. I know it was a lot. I know it was down and dirty. Definitely a great conversation that probably can't be covered in one little short YouTube video. Hit me up with your questions. If you have questions on, you know, what you're looking for and who I would recommend, hit me up. I love giving out references and sending people to good quality instructors. So the purpose of this video is not to either endorse or to throw criticism at any instructor. It's just to communicate my philosophies on what I look for in an instructor and how I feel you can best be prepared as a student. My hope is that it stimulates some thought and some conversation and helps to give some direction to some guys that are out there trying to look for the right path to start down to get some education in this game, which I highly, highly, highly recommend. I know it seems like a lot of time, and I know it's not cheap, but in the long run, I think it's going to save you both of those things, and it's really going to steepen your learning curve. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe and share with your friends. I look forward to the interaction in the comments. I'm sure that there's a lot of really, really fired up opinions about what people look for in instructors, and there's a very passionate following out there of individual instructors, and it's great that people have that kind of passion for things. So thanks guys, be well. We will talk to you guys later.